The day Robert Baratheon died, something inside Ned Stark cracked. He'd come to King's Landing with duty in his heart and the North behind him. He thought honor would be his shield. But King's Landing didn't care for honor. It fed on. Lies played games with truth and killed slow with a smile. And now Robert was gone. The throne sat cold and waiting, and vultures circled. Ned held Robert's last will in his hand, naming him protector of the realm until the rightful heir, Stannis, took the throne. But everyone around him spoke only of Joffrey, of Cersei, of keeping the peace. Then Renly came to him, bold and quiet in the dead of night. "Lord Stark," he whispered, "you want to do what's right. I want to do what's necessary. Together we can do both." Ned looked at him, long and hard. "You'd have me crown you king. Stannis is the rightful heir. Stannis has no allies, no love from the people. He'll rule with iron and ice, and the realm will bleed. Give me your support, name me king, and we can crush the Lannisters before the sun sets tomorrow." Ned hesitated. The idea stank of treason, but so did every path left to him. Then came the final push. Littlefinger, smug as always, whispered poison in his ear. "You think Stannis will thank you? He'll have your head before your knees hit the floor. You need strength now, not righteousness." That night, Ned stared out the window at the stars, wondering what kind of man he would become by morning. Then he thought of his daughters, Sansa, trapped in Cersei's web, and Arya, half feral and full of fire. He thought of Jon Snow, out, on the wall, and of Robb, so young and untested, waiting in Winterfell. Maybe peace was worth one betrayal. So he did it. Ned Stark sent ravens not to Stannis, but to the major houses of Westeros, declaring Renly Baratheon the true king. By choice, not blood. He cited Robert's will, he claimed the North's support. And in the early hours, he had Sir Barristan and the City Watch seize the throne room under the pretense of protecting it. Joffrey never saw it coming. The boy was dragged screaming from the Iron Throne, flanked by gold cloaks, who no longer answered, to his mother. Cersei fought like a lioness, spitting curses and clawing at Ned as she was pulled from her chambers. Tommen cried, Myrcella begged, and Ned stood there watching it all, his face like stone. Behind him, Renly approached the Iron Throne with a crown already forged, already waiting. Ned didn't kneel. He simply said, "The realm needs a king, not a child, not a tyrant. If it must be you, then rule wisely." Renly smiled, wide and hollow. "You won't regret this, Lord Stark." But Ned already did. The first executions came 2 days later. Janos Slynt was named Lord of Harrenhal. Barristan Selmy was dismissed. The small council bent or broke. Tywin Lannister gathered his banners, furious and silent in Casterly Rock. And Stannis, wronged and overlooked, declared war, raising the Black Stag and Flame in Dragonstone. The realm was not saved. It was shattered. And Ned. He sat in silence most days, hands stained not with blood but with something worse, the weight of becoming everything he'd sworn to fight. He hadn't saved the kingdom. He'd only traded one lie for another, and it was only just beginning. Ravens screamed across the sky. In Winterfell, Robb Stark stood with the letter shaking in his hand. The ink was still wet, the words sharp and cold. His father had named Renly Baratheon king, not Stannis, not Joffrey, and more than that, his father had helped put him on the throne. Maester Luwin cleared his throat gently, watching Robb's eyes burn. "He must have his reasons, my lord." "He's not my lord anymore," Robb said, too low, too bitter. "Not if he bends the knee to a pretender." In the south, Stannis Baratheon was less quiet about his outrage. Fire consumed Dragonstone. Letters flew like arrows, each one dripping with fury. Stannis called Ned a traitor, a coward, a usurper's dog. Ned read the words without blinking. He didn't defend himself. He didn't reply. He simply carried on. King. Renly Baratheon moved fast, reshaping the realm to fit his image. Young, golden, and dangerously naive, he handed out titles like sweets. Loras Tyrell became his sworn shield and closest advisor. Highgarden's coffers flowed freely. The Caranks backed Renly with everything it had, and Ned. He was named Hand of the King. Again. But this time he wasn't protecting Robert's will. He was enforcing Renly's. Every night, he sat alone in his chambers, staring at the sword ice resting against the wall. The blade felt heavier than ever. It reminded him of who he used to be. Catelyn arrived in King's Landing weeks later with a grim face and a broken smile. Her eyes searched Ned's like she didn't recognize him. "You told me once," she said, "that you'd never trade honor for power, that the man who sits the throne must be worthy of it." "I remember," he said quietly. "And now?" He had no answer. She stared at him a moment longer, then looked away. "Our daughters are safe for now, but they feel it too. Something's wrong with you, Ned. Something's cracked." He wanted to deny it. He wanted to say he did this for them, to stop bloodshed, to save the kingdom. But the kingdom wasn't saved, and the blood hadn't stopped. The Riverlands were burning. Tywin Lannister had moved without mercy. Clegane rode ahead of him, villages left smouldering in his wake. Lord Tully begged for help, but Renly delayed, too focused on feasts and banners, too drunk on the illusion of peace. Ned pushed. He demanded war councils, urged quick action. But his voice was just one among many, and Renly only heard what he wanted to hear. One night, in the chamber of the small council, Renly laughed. "We won, Lord Stark. We have the crown. The North is quiet. The Lannisters are lashing out, yes, but they'll calm." "They won't," Ned said coldly. "You've humiliated them. Cersei sits in the rock now, and she's more dangerous than Tywin. Joffrey's still alive. That boy will become a symbol. The people remember their boy king, and they whisper his name more than yours." Renly stood, face suddenly cold. "Are you questioning my rule, Lord Stark?" "I'm questioning your blindness," Ned answered. That was the first crack. The second came when Renly started speaking openly about sending Sansa to Highgarden, to form stronger ties. Ned refused. "You said she'd be safe." "She will be," Renly smiled. "She'll be a queen eventually. What more could a girl want?" The next night Ned went to Varys in secret. "I've betrayed everything I ever stood for," he said, voice low, bitter, "and it still wasn't enough." Varys only smiled, as soft and oily as ever. "That's the tragedy of power, Lord Stark. It demands your soul, then offers no guarantee of peace." Ned left without another word. Back in his chambers, Arya looked up at him from the floor, where she was sharpening a small knife. "You don't smile anymore," she said, too honest for a child. He knelt beside her, brushing hair from her face. "I don't have much to smile about." She studied him a moment. "You did something bad, didn't you?" He flinched. "Yes." She nodded, serious as a soldier. "Then fix it." But how could he? The realm had already begun to rot, and his hands were the ones that planted the seed. They called it the Year of 3 Kings. By the end of summer, all of Westeros was bleeding. Stannis Baratheon had declared war, landing in the Stormlands with fire and fury. He burned the 7 statues. He raised the red banner of the Lord of Light, and he named both Renly and Ned traitors to the realm. In the Riverlands, Robb Stark had done the unthinkable. He marched south without his father's word. When word reached Ned in King's Landing, the silence nearly crushed him. "He's just a boy," Ned whispered, staring at the map where Stark banners moved like blades across the Tully lands. "He's your son," Catelyn said, standing at the door, voice trembling. "And he's doing what you should have done, fighting back. But fight who? Renly, Stannis, the Lannisters?" The lines were blurred now. So many names for the enemy, and none of them clean. Renly, for all his charm, was growing crueler by the day. His crown weighed heavier, his smiles faded faster. When Tyrell gold ran low, he doubled taxes in King's Landing. When food grew short, he accused merchants of hoarding and had them flogged publicly. The people began to whisper. Robert was a drunk, but at least he laughed. Renly's no king, he's a pretty face hiding a war. Ned heard it all. And worse, he began to believe it. Renly started holding court without him. Council meetings happened behind closed doors. Varys stopped speaking in full sentences. Even Littlefinger had vanished, rumoured to be in the Vale, whispering in Lysa Arryn's ear. And then came the Ravens, one from Casterly Rock, stamped with gold wax. Cersei had crowned Joffrey king once again. Lords loyal to the west were already bending the knee. Jaime had escaped captivity during a Riverlands skirmish, and now commanded Lannister forces with ruthless precision. Another raven came from the north. It was unsigned, short and sharp. "You've forgotten who you are. We have not. The North remembers, Ned." Read it again and again until the ink blurred. He was losing everything, his children, his name, his home. Even the Stark bannermen whispered now, doubting the man they once followed without question. In King's Landing, he was called the Quiet Wolf. Some said it with respect, most said it with disgust. One night, Sir Davos Seaworth came to him under the black cloak of night. Stannis had sent him. "You can still make it right," Davos said. "Bend the knee to Stannis. Help us end this false war. Your honor may be bruised, but it's not broken." Ned's jaw clenched. "If I switch sides now, it will tear the realm in two." "It already is." Ned didn't answer. He looked to the corner of the room where ice leaned against the stone wall, untouched for weeks. "You're not the man the stories tell of, Lord Stark," Davos said quietly, "but maybe you can still become him again." Then he left. D. Next morning a raven came from the Riverlands. Robb had won his first major battle. The Lannisters had been driven back, but he hadn't declared for Renly, or for Stannis. He rode under one banner only, the King in the North. Ned sat in the council room that evening, the news fresh in his mind. Renly paced furious, calling Robb a rebel, threatening to send troops north to remind them who rules the realm. Ned stood slowly. "If you send men to fight my son, I will cut you down myself." The room went silent. Renly turned to him, something like betrayal flickering in his eyes. "You forget yourself." "No, I remember too much," Ned said. He walked out of the council chamber for the last time. That night, he went to the crypts under the Sept of Baelor. It was quiet, cool, and full of ghosts. There he knelt, not to pray, not to beg, but to decide. Because he knew something now. He wasn't the usurper anymore. He was just the next man who thought he could hold the realm together. And it was slipping through his fingers like dust. They said the gods were watching the night Renly died. It wasn't a battle. It wasn't poison. It was something far worse. Unnatural. Renly Baratheon was preparing for war. Stannis had finally crossed into the Crownlands, with fire banners flying and Melisandre whispering in his ear. Renly had begun to act like a real king. Paranoid, ruthless, dangerous. He dismissed Loras Tyrell from his side, accused him of spying. He ordered his men to march northward, toward his brother's army. He was ready to face Stannis. But he never got the chance. The Black Shadow came just before dawn. No one saw where it came from, just that it moved like smoke and screamed like steel. When the guards entered Renly's tent, he was already dead. His chest split open. No sign of struggle, no sound of warning, only the smell of ash. Whispers spread faster than wildfire. Some said it was Stannis' doing. Others said the gods punished Renly for daring to wear a crown that wasn't his. A few claimed to see a red woman walking calmly into the darkness moments before. Whatever the truth, it didn't matter. Renly was dead, and the realm lost its center again. The Tyrells, furious and wounded, abandoned King's Landing before the sun rose. Loras did not speak. Mace Tyrell left behind half his gold, but took all his soldiers. Within hours, King's Landing felt like a crumbling shell, and Ned Stark stood still in the storm. Renly's death was a blow, but not a surprise. Ned had seen it coming somehow. Power like that doesn't last, not without roots. And now, with no king on the throne, again all eyes turned to him. Varys cornered him first. "You must act quickly," he whispered, voice like silk. "Renly is dead. The throne is empty. Stannis marches as we speak. You have the city watch. The lords trust you. Crown yourself." Ned recoiled. "I won't." "Why not? You already betrayed your honor once. Why not finish what you started?" Then came the Tyrells. Even after leaving, they sent a raven. If Ned would name Garland Tyrell as heir to the throne, they would send 20,000 men to hold the city. A southern king backed by the Reach. All they asked was for Ned to choose again, and the worst came from the north. Another letter from Robb. It was short. "I will not kneel to you, or to anyone who sits that throne. The north is free." Ned stood alone in the Tower of the Hand as the city crumbled around him. He had never wanted the crown, but now he realized it didn't matter. The war didn't care who wanted it. It only asked who could survive it. He ordered the gates closed. He reinforced the walls. The city watch was doubled. Ravens flew again, this time to neutral houses, asking not for oaths, but for time. Stannis was coming, and with Renly dead, there would be no negotiation. Catelyn found Ned by the brazier one night, staring at a burning piece of parchment. Was it worth it? She asked. No, he said without hesitation. Then why keep going? Because if I stop now, everyone dies for nothing. She didn't argue. She just stood beside him, watching the flames eat what little they had left of peace. But peace wasn't coming. In the back halls of the Red Keep, betrayal brewed. Sir Mandan Moore of the Kingsguard was seen meeting with strangers. Varys spoke less and less, his silence sharp. And Arya had gone missing again, last seen by the stables, knife in her belt, rage in her eyes. And in the darkest corner of the city, Tyrion Lannister had returned, quietly, cleverly, with coin and clout. Rumour had it, he had bought half the dockmen and a few captains in the gold cloaks. The war was no longer at the gates, it was already inside. And Ned Stark, once the man who stood above it all, was now caught at the centre of the storm he helped unleash. But the worst hadn't arrived. Yet. The worst had sails, and fire, and a red woman whispering in the ears of a would-be king. King's Landing burned before the first battering ram ever touched the gate. Stannis had arrived, his ships, black-sailed and brimming with flame, choked Blackwater. His soldiers moved like shadows through the woods, striking at night, never resting. And behind him came a red sky that never quite faded. Melisandre of Ashai, wrapped in flame-coloured robes, whispered to the wind and claimed the city would fall by fire and fate. Inside the walls, Ned prepared for a siege he wasn't sure he wanted to win. The small council was in ruins. Only Pycelle remained, babbling useless advice no one cared to hear. Varys had vanished entirely. The Tyrells were gone. The gold had nearly dried up. The bakeries were rationing flour and the butchers were selling rats as pork. And the people, oh, the people, hated him now. They cursed his name in the streets. They spat at his banners. They blamed him for everything, for Robert's death, for Renly's fall, for the fire in the distance and the hunger in their bellies. They weren't wrong. In his chambers, Ned sat by candlelight, staring at a letter he hadn't sent. It was for Robb. Not as a lord. Not as a king, as a father begging his son to remember who he used to be. But it was too late. That boy, the one who feared dishonor more than death, was gone. In his place sat a man who would do anything to stop this war, even if it meant staining his soul black. Outside, Arya moved like a ghost through the castle halls. She was sharper now, quieter. She kept a list of names. Whispered them to herself when she thought no one was listening. That list was growing. She found Ned in the armory one night, fitting ice back into its sheath. Her voice was quiet, but cold. "You're going to kill Stannis, aren't you?" "If..." "I must," Ned said. "What if he's right?" He looked at her, truly looked at her. Her eyes were darker now, harder. "Then I'll live with that sin too." Arya didn't argue. She just walked away. And that somehow hurt more than any Lannister blade ever could. 3 nights before the siege began, Tyrion made his move. The bells rang out at midnight, an explosion at the docks. 3 ships burned to the waterline, and with them half of Ned's stored wildfire. The rest had been relocated by order of an unknown commander, one loyal to House Lannister. The next day, 3 captains of the City Watch were found dead. Poison, quick and quiet. And by morning, half the gold cloaks no longer answered to Ned. The mutiny had begun. He met Tyrion that afternoon, high above the city in the Tower of the Hand. The imp poured himself wine, calm as a man with a winning hand. "You made the wrong enemies, Lord Stark," Tyrion said. "You should have let the boy king sit his little throne. I made the only choice I could." "No," Tyrion sipped. "You made the choice that made you feel less guilty. That's not the same thing. What do you want?" "Me?" Tyrion smiled. "Nothing. I'm just here to watch the fall." Ned's hand drifted toward his sword. Tyrion's eyes followed, amused. "You could kill me, wouldn't change what's coming." And what was coming? Stannis. fire, chaos. That night the sky turned red. Stannis's ships surrounded the bay, their decks covered in barrels of wildfire. His men marched on the walls, flaming arrows lit the rooftops, screams echoed through Flea Bottom. The siege had begun. Ned stood on the battlements, watching the city burn from the inside out. And all he could think was, this was never supposed to happen. He'd wanted to stop war, protect the realm, shield the innocent. Instead, he'd thrown a torch onto dry grass. Catelyn found him as the gates began to shake. "If we die tonight," she said, "I want you to know. I still love you. But I don't know who you are anymore." Neither did he. Then a scream pierced the courtyard. Arya Ned turned just in time to see her dragged back by a pair of gold cloaks, rogue ones, likely loyal to the Lannisters. She bit, kicked, stabbed. One in the thigh, but they overpowered her. Ned charged, ice in hand, no armor, no fear. He cut the first man down. The second ran. Arya stood, covered in blood, breathing hard. "You're still my father," she said, eyes wet, "but I don't think I'll ever forgive you." Then the gate broke. Stannis had come. The walls of King's Landing fell with a sound like the end of the world. Green fire lit the night sky. Wildfire poured from broken towers, setting soldiers and civilians alike ablaze. Screams drowned the bells. Stannis's banners crested the gates, black stag blazing against a blood-red sky. His army was relentless, silent, organized, merciless. Ned Stark stood in the middle of the madness. Steel clashed all around him. The courtyard was soaked in blood. He moved like a man already dead, ice in hand, carving a path through fire and fear. Every man he killed brought no satisfaction, only weight, only silence. The Red Keep shook with the force of the invasion. Inside the throne room, the Iron Throne stood untouched, its cruel blade still gleaming in the firelight. And seated on it, not Stannis, not a Lannister boy, not a crowned lord, was Arya. She sat there, blood on her face, her knife across her lap. The body of Sir Mandon Moore lay at her feet, throat slashed, eyes wide. She looked at Ned without blinking. "I didn't want them to take it from me," she said quietly. "So I took it first." Ned's knees nearly gave out. "You shouldn't be here, neither should you." Before he could answer, the great doors burst open. Stannis Baratheon entered like a judgment made flesh, armor scorched, jaw clenched, sword dripping. Behind him came Melisandre, her red eyes gleaming like fire in human skin. The two men stood facing each other, neither speaking at first. Then Stannis broke the silence. "You had your chance, Lord Stark. You could have stood beside justice. Instead, you stood beside a usurper." "I tried to stop bloodshed," Ned said, voice hoarse. "I failed." "You betrayed the realm," Stannis hissed. "You let a pretender wear the crown. For that you will burn." Melisandre stepped forward. "The flames have seen your end, Eddard Stark. You will scream." But before the sentence could fall, Arya rose from the throne. No, her voice was sharp, steady. "You don't get to judge him. You don't know what he gave up." Melisandre raised a brow. "And who are you, little ghost?" "I'm the daughter of the man you want to burn." Stannis ignored the girl. "Lord Stark, kneel, face justice, or die where you stand." Ned looked around the throne room, at the throne itself, at the firelit walls, at Arya's blood-stained hands, at his own. And then he did something no one expected. He dropped his sword. Ice clattered to the floor. "I won't kneel to you, Stannis," he said, voice tired, "but I won't fight any more either. Do what you came to do." Silence stretched. Then Arya stepped between them. She held her blade out, not toward Stannis, toward her father. "No more dying," she said. "If you touch him, I'll cut your throat, and then I'll die too, but it won't be clean." Stannis blinked, uncertain. For the first time, the weight of this war cracked the cold in his eyes. Then came the sound of horns. Outside, new banners flew, the wolf and the trout, the direwolf and the crown. Robb Stark had arrived. He'd cut through, Lannister and rebel alike. His army had taken the river route and struck the rear of Stannis's forces. The tide had turned again. And for a moment, just a moment, the realm held its breath. Stannis looked at Ned, then at Arya. Then he turned and walked out, silent as he'd come. He would not win the throne that day. In the weeks that followed, peace was forged, but not with honor. Ned brokered a truce between Robb and Stannis. The North remained free. Stannis was declared protector of the realm in name, ruling from Dragonstone. King's Landing became a ghost city, watched by ravens and memory. Ned never returned. To Winterfell, he stayed in the Red Keep, rebuilding what was left, not as king, not even as Hand, just as the man who caused the fall, and would spend the rest of his life trying to fix it. Arya never forgave him. Sansa never came back. Catelyn sailed home with Robb, her eyes colder than the snows they'd left behind. And Ned, stark. He woke each morning with ghosts in his chest. He had taken Renly's offer. He had worn the cloak of a kingmaker. He had become the usurper he once hated, and lived long enough to understand why Robert drank himself to death.